Thank you.
And then go ahead, Leah, then Ralph.
Hey, Leah, how are you?
Oh, I'm doing good. Very nice to be here. I'm a newbie and enjoying all this information. It's incredible.
Oh, good.
So I get so my situation is, and I'm so I was out this morning for 2.5 hours at a meeting for with family services sort of thing. So it was a very emotional.
For you personally, or that's your work?
No, this I was there in support for my son who's in addictions,
Okay, gotcha.
and his girlfriend, and then her parents, because we all have because there's a grandson. My grandson is involved, so it's all about the grandson's. He's 3.5 for his livelihood, and so my son is the one who's in addictions, and they want him removed from the house, and so it was very emotional.
Mhm.
He has been, barely coping, but they don't want to see the drugs in the house
Sure.
and situations going on. So
And may I ask, like, what kind of drug is it? Do you mind saying?
crystal meth, cocaine, fentanyl.
Okay.
Yeah, not a great combination.
Yeah.
So he's not coping, so he's
Yeah.
mentally, got a lot of issues.
Yeah.
So we hope now this is going to be, he's been given an ultimatum, and he's either going to come stay with me or he's going to go stay with someone else, and we'll revisit in 2 months the situation. So I'm finding I am completely emotionally exhausted. My blood pressure, like I have very low blood pressure. And my
Okay.
heart is beating really quickly, like it's very high right now.
Fast heart rate, low blood pressure.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
do we know what the blood pressure is?
Oh, no, I haven't measured it today, but it's barely walking. I have very low blood pressure.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. And so I'm just feeling extremely exhausted. I'm doing the best I can to, so I'm just emotionally drained.
I bet. Like many years ago, through the years, I had different specialties, and I did do a couple of years with addictions, but specializing in addiction. And what you're going through is actually very common. And it's draining, it's exhausting, like it's really intense, and then you get away and you're like, ugh, and then it goes back and being really intense. And so I like a couple of things for you that I think can be helpful. So first is you could choose between either, there's a thing called ironbark eucalyptus or etheric cords. And it basically just, you have the connection to everybody involved. And so a lot of like stress and emotion that you're feeling actually isn't even yours. And this helps to clean up the pathways where other people's emotions are coming in. And it helps you to kind of be able to step back out of the situation and go, whoa, that's you, this is me, right? And then the other thing is, and I like this for a couple of reasons, is hyssop. And so right off the bat, hyssop is a stimulant to the medulla oblongata. And with that, it can help when the blood pressure is dropping erratically or in times of stress or whatever the reason. It can help bring the blood pressure back up to where it should be. So that's one part, right? Second part is it diminishes the tendency to absorb negativity from the environment, from a person, from a situation, from a group thought process, whatever it is. It helps reduce the tendency to absorb it, because emotionally, mentally, you're not absorbing it. Most of it is happening in your physiology. Your physiology takes in all this information and then kind of physicalizes it, and then it hits the emotions, it hits the mind and everything. But it's calming down this tendency within your body. And then it's also cleansing, like it helps to kind of cleanse out any of that stuff that has been impacted because of the interaction, and might be, the family dynamic with the son and all that, but it also could be the care, the doctor, the therapist, the people that they were, the son was around in therapy, who knows what it is. It doesn't matter. Just needs to be flushed out of your system. And you could go through and just inhale it. You could put a few drops on the wrist. You could take a salt bath with it, like a pound of salt with about 10-12 drops of the oil in a salt bath, and just soak. And you could also do it with the etheric cords as well. But I like the combination of the two for you. Like, go back and forth with that. I think it would be very, very helpful.
And how long, would I do that for,
Until the situation probably stabilizes. Like, those, you probably won't need to keep biting, those 2 bottles will last you quite a while. And, unless you're just putting a bunch on or taking a bunch of salt baths. And so I would just do it anytime that you're feeling like stressed or worn down, and just think of it as like your first aid kit. And I would also do a little bit of prevention. The other thing you might want to put in the mix is there's an essential oil called tarragon. And when you feel worn out, or it feels like too overwhelming, or when there's been an intense situation, I would inhale it, and I would put a couple drops in water and take it, just so it reduces the impact of stress on the digestive tract. And you'll notice that it's like what you would use for like shock, but like a lot of times it's not necessarily shock. It's just things can happen that can be a little bit disruptive to the emotional body. And, you're having to constantly adjust to all these parameters, and you're having to deal with other people's emotions and reactions. And it's taxing, and so I think the tarragon would be incredibly helpful. As like, I would keep that one in your pocket like at all times. Just whenever something felt weird, I'd go right to just inhaling the tarragon until it felt a little better.
Mm.
All of them are very inexpensive. All of them you could use a bunch. Tarragon is the only one I would take internally in water, but just like a drop or two, like not very much. The other ones are just inhalation. All of them you could just get by with inhaling things.
Or at the salt bath for the.
Yeah, especially for the hyssop.
Hyssop. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, lovely.
Yeah.
Very
Yeah.
good.
I mean, that's what we used to use way back in the day. And every once in a while we'd need to add a thing or two. But I used to kind of kid the people back then, because we'd deal with the parents or the partner or whatever. And I was like, use these 3 things. These are your new best friends. Like, it just, man, they can really make a difference for you. And even with the etheric cords or iron bark, whichever one you get, as soon as you start inhaling it, you'll start just going, oh God, I feel so much better. You can feel like a tension leave your body. But if there's somebody in particular who's really riled up, doesn't matter if they're right or wrong, they're just riled up. You can inhale it and think of them. And it's like, it makes it even more specific to them.
So more specific to them, how do you mean?
Like to clean up the connection, because there's some like absorbing of the emotion and their intensity. The body's reacting and you're absorbing it a little bit. We all do. Like, it's not like some people do and some people don't. We all do it. Right. So it just minimizes what's happening. And so it just like, just keep that stuff to yourself. Like, granted, somebody's upset, but it's not your job to take it on.
Right. And that was with the iron bark?
Iron bark or etheric cords, either one.
Yeah.
Just, you can choose whichever one you want to do.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Fabulous. Oh, that's awesome. Thank you.
And then go ahead.